Hello Lorenzonites, I am happy that you're watching. I hope you're happy that you're watching. This is KSP Contracting episode 28. We have Jebediah Kerman here on Ike and he is raring to go back to the mothership. The mothership which is, incidentally, just about to pass out of Ike's sphere of influence back into... this is the lander. This is the mothership. It will pass back into Duna's sphere of influence and I think I'm going to attempt to basically put this thing on a similar trajectory. Of course, for that we first have to loop around Ike and then we shall rendezvous with the crew storage unit. Now what we'll do is just that, and if that goes smoothly we might check out the rescue probe as it draws closer to rescuing the Mahonians, and depending on the celestial mechanics we shall see whether this expedition also ends up needing a rescue mission. First things first though, let's ascend into orbit. And I don't know the orbital velocity for Ike off the top of my head, but I think it is fairly low. It is about 3, 4, maybe 500 meters per second, so that should almost be good enough already. Let's have a look at the map view. Yeah, that's almost good enough. So let's plop a maneuver node here to, well, finish off that orbit. And then over here we can boost to escape Ike. Now, considering the return journey to Kerbin, I was wondering if there was some way to disconnect the fuel tanks from the drive stage, hook them up to maybe one or both of the landers, because these things are light and efficient and probably could make it back if they had some more fuel tanks. I don't think we can do that though, and we will rely on the big expedition vehicle, and we shall see whether that gets back. If it doesn't have the fuel to completely reach Kerbin, doesn't really matter. If we can get it into its or near its sphere of influence, we can send up a shuttle to take Jebediah and Murkas back home with all the science they've brought. But of course it would be nice to have a self-contained expedition. One other thing I wasn't sure of while I was contemplating the mission in my head before launching the game is if any of the modules actually have parachutes. Now, the Duna lander had parachutes, but I wasn't planning on taking that back to Kerbin for weight considerations. If that is the only parachuted bit, then we will have to send up a shuttle regardless. Anyway, here we are in Ike orbit, more or less. Yeah, rather more than less. Good. Rightio, let's just eyeball that for a sec. Ooh, we do want an orbit around Duna. So we will put it like this. Yeah, that seems reasonable enough. Now, one thing I saw in the comments before going into this video is that 2 episodes ago I was lamenting the fact that there weren't enough materials bay and goo canisters. Talking of materials bays, there was one that didn't fire before. Oh, and I forgot which one that was. So let's peruse the storage data. We have space high over Ike. Oh, so that means that we need space low over Ike. I wonder if we're still there, if that still counts. Let's see what we have here. That's high. Well, shit. That's a pity. See, does our trajectory take us closer to Ike? It does! So, fortunately, I think if 40 kilometers counts as space near Ike, we can still take that measurement, and otherwise we will be screwed out of it. But the thing that I was talking about when I got this revelation is that I was lamenting the fact that there weren't enough goo containers and material bays, but I was forgetting the fact that the laboratory that's on the mothership can reset these experiments, and Nathan was kind enough to point that out, and so if things come together properly we shall also take home goo and material canisters from both high and low space over Duna, which is of course nice. So here we are at this point. Let's have a look if this counts as low space. Yes, it does, so we get to do that data. Wonderful. And we get to do the burn, and then we'll have Jebediah collect that data just so that we have it. I think it will work out fine with the fuel on this craft as well. It probably has enough to do a proper rendezvous with the mothership. But for now, let's see which one has the data. That's this one here. And Jebediah can go and grab that. Of course, that flipped the camera around completely, so now I don't know which one it was. I think it's that one. Let's get him over there. Now, for today, I do have a small tidbit of interesting news. It's also on my Tumblr. Have a look at that through the video description if you feel like it. But what I was reading about is some robots that have learned how to walk. And scarily good. They can run over icy surfaces. Actually, that's a DARPA robot from the US. That one is quite old already. That's not the one I'm linking today. But this one is about a tiny, I think it's a 3 kilogram Korean droid that can run at 46 kph. That's about 30 miles an hour. Faster than any human can run, and, well, just pretty darn fast. And I saw a video of it, and that's also linked on the Tumblr, and that was just plain terrifying. If that were to chase you with a grenade or a gun or even just a camera, that'd be hella scary. But it's also sort of awesome. So check that out if you share those feelings. Right. Now about that rendezvous. This is our target, the crew storage unit. And let's accelerate time until we also get into probably a similar orbit. Well, it's sort of similar. We are approaching our apoapsis. Let's see if from there we can perform something resembling... Wait, are we orbiting the other direction? No. Tell me we're not. No, we're not. That's good. Let's see if we can set up something like a rendezvous from this apoapsis, is what I was going to say. Yeah, that seems reasonable. It's a little bit heavy on the delta V, probably, because this orbit will be enlarged and then shrunken again. But I'm not too worried about that, because this is a fairly light craft. On the other hand, if I have trouble making it less than like 38, 35, that's decent. 57, it's not so decent. 45, well, who am I kidding? 38-ish is fine. And this takes 65 meters per second. We have that. Does not make things more complicated than they have to be. We're running at about thousands of units of fuel in the mothership, and we have 100 here. So the meters per second might seem large, but the amount of fuel that this light craft burns doing that is actually fairly low. So we can rendezvous in relative luxury and ease without worrying about impacting the delta V performance of the mothership too much. And as I already said, if we miss our rendezvous with Kerbin by, well, 100 meters per second, it's trivial to send a tug. Right, so let's now do the patented trick of burning while looking at this. Intercept. There it comes. Let's fine-tune that with some RCS, and that's about as good as it gets. So that's 30 kilometers, and I think, well, this does not take us to a point where we're both near and far from Duna, which we need for the materials bay, but we shall first rendezvous and then see about sorting that. Or we can do the easier thing and just settle for a reading from high space. I think we're going to do that. No. We are going to drop the mothership's trajectory close to Duna for that Oberth effect boost if and when we get back to Kerbin. Also, I want to modify the orbit to get out of reach of Ike. Otherwise, if we have to wait a few months, we're going to crash into it, and that will ruin everyone's day. So let's see. Target relative speed is only 80 meters per second. That means we will easily be able to rendezvous. Let's do that now. We would have to turn around, and where is our target? Well, no matter, let's first just kill the relative velocity. Might not be the best idea if we were already headed towards it. We were a bit. So let's just point to it, and make our prograde marker straddle the actual target marker. If I can find it, that is. There it is, and there it is. 33 kilometers. That was our closest approach, approximately. So I'm going to burn in this direction. Now, of course, we have fuel on the mothership if this runs out, but it will be a million times easier to rendezvous with the small ship, just because it's so much more maneuverable. We are headed towards it at 50 meters per second now, at 30 kilometer distance. Some quick in-head calculations gives that would take about 5 minutes. So we can do time acceleration for that. And I think in 5 minutes at an altitude of 1800 kilometers over Duna, orbital mechanics won't be that much of a problem. Hey, will the map you actually tell? We'll get to 4.7 kilometers. That is fine. So, time acceleration on. And there we go. Well, that's 8 kilometers. And see, we actually did drift a fair amount of that straight approach. So I did underestimate that, but fortunately everything is still fine. Let's kill that speed there. And these last drags, the fuel will go a long way because there's almost no mass in this craft, which is really nice because that makes us go places easily. 5 kilometers to go. That's walking distance, but it goes faster with rockets, obviously. So, there we go. Prograde marker again, dead on target. 25 meters per second for 5 kilometers gives about 4 minutes, give or take. So, that's again time warping material, even though 4 minutes is not very long by any measure. It's still too long for us impatient YouTubers and viewers. Well, here we get the hiccup from the loading, 900 meters away. And we do have to dock this time. We have to dock because we need to reset the experiment containers so that we, well, just the one actually, so that we may gather materials bay data on Duna. And that is of course important. So that's 530 meters away, the big triangular, well, not the triangular, but the tripoded orange drive beast. And here we are now approaching it fairly rapidly. And I think I'm going to try and dock it to the front, because that will just be by far the easiest, since then we don't have to navigate in between the drive pylons. There we go, 10 meters per second now. And we're coming in a little bit on the rear side of it. Basically we're coming in on completely the horrible side of it, but with some camera jiggery pokery and measured application of rocket thrust, we should, I repeat, should be able to move around to the other side of that rocket. And now I want to stop, arrest my movement. So just another dab of throttle, chasing that marker, and there we are at 0.3 meters per second of relative velocity. I'm going to set that forward docking port as the target, see if I can face that and approach. Control from that docking port. And here we are, targeting that RCS controls to do it. Is the RCS even doing something, or is that depleted? It is depleted. Nice. That complicates things. That certainly complicates things. That complicates things to a degree that I don't feel like solving it, and we are going to forego that science. Sorry. Did Jeb collect this already? Yes, he did. That means we can just get on working on getting home to Kerbin without these extraneous weights attached. Yeah, it's a shame about the fuel as well. It's 100 units of fuel, but without RCS it will just be torture to actually dock, especially to a structure that large. And oh dear come on, Jebediah, don't leave yet. You need to bring the science. You do need to bring the science. And I don't know why you're not cooperating with... Go on. Ah, there we go. Go on. Yeah, this guy is not cooperating at all. He is being fussy. He was fussy all the time with getting out of the capsule. Last episode he was having seizures, and I'm now having to remap these controls in my mind, which I am not particularly good at, but that was a bit of a harsh collision, but it did work out. So we have the experiments, and now we can proceed, if we can find it, to the... Oh shit. Are we going to drift into it? I don't think so. And I think my concerns about a re-entry module might have been valid, because this lab doesn't seem to have any, and that means that this whole expedition will rely on a Kerbin to surface shuttle, which isn't a problem in and of itself, but it does mean that we cannot just slam into Kerbin's atmosphere willy-nilly, because then they would all die. Store the experiments, and also board. Come on, Jeb. Get on board. Can he get on board? Yeah, there we are. So, now we are back in control of this. We have 16 pieces of data and 2 Kerbals that need to go home to Kerbin. Now, let's have a look at the alarm clock viewer when that transfer window would happen. Transfer window from Duna to Kerbin happens in, wow, 2 years from now. That's painful. That's really painful for these guys. Right, are they sure? Does that not happen faster than 2 years from now? Damn. Alright, at that alarm, that means we are going to get these guys into a stable parking orbit that has no danger of being interfered with by Ike. And that means fast forwarding to the periapsis and reducing our orbit. Because you see, if Ike comes along and screws up the orbit, we could be flung out of the Duna system altogether, or, much worse, we could crash into Ike, and that would end, well, that would end the mission. The Kerbals, the science, everything. So we don't want that to happen. And I just realized I did a lot of time warping with a ship really close by, but fortunately that drifted apart rather than into the ship. We have some monopropellant left on this, and we are going to expend some fuel getting into a safe parking orbit. I hope the weight reduction of those landers will prove sufficient that the 6,000 units of fuel remaining will suffice to get back to Kerbin, but we will find out not now but in 2 years. Yeah, that is quite long. Let's see what the time is for a window from Kerbin to Duna, because if that's like right now, we could send a preemptive rescue. That happens in 28 days. If I time that right, the travel time will be less than a year. That will get there before this window back. Wait, this is a Kerbal year. That might not. That might be more than a year. Well, I'm going to add the alarm in the list and see what I do with that later. Right, let's fire up the engines here and safeguard this mission from Ikean interference. That should probably do it. So that's a safe orbit. Let's set that as a target. Yeah, no interactions possible. Cool, so these guys are safe. And I'm not going to send a preemptive rescue. I think they might... I mean, we need about 1 kilometer per second. We have 6,000 units of fuel. We have, well, we have a lot of dead weight, let's face it. But we might make it. We can do an aggressive aero braking pass, hopefully not crash, and live to tell the tale. That would be nice. So, let's, to round off this episode, pay a visit to the rescue probe and fast forward that and do a correction there, set up one more step in this interplanetary rendezvous, and well, we shall see how that goes, and that will unfold over the next few episodes as well. I put the maneuver node here because here at the Oh, that's really dumb because we're heading the other way. Let's see what we can do from here. That's happening a lot earlier as well. Wow, is this just automatically this good? It is. Oh yeah, we did that in the last episode. Not automatically, I did that myself. So let's see if we can't get this better by using, well, our target is 29 kilometers, so if we use this toggle, we're 27, 26, 24, 30, so that's not good. 24, let's try the purple ones. 12, that's really good. 8,000, 8,800. Let's try this one again now. 7.3, 7.3 thousand kilometers. 1.3 thousand kilometers. 1,800, 1,400. This is genius. 1,400. That's great. If we then use, let's say, 300 meters per second from that approaching speed, that will only take an hour. And that might seem long, but look, we're in a big wide orbit around the sun. That takes months, so an hour is not going to offset that by drifting anyway. So let's quickly fast forward 73 days. We'll miss that preemptive Duna rescue mission, by the way, but well, we can only field so many rescues at once. So yeah, now it's going to bugger me. Get out of there. And this can also get out of there because we're not using that anymore. So we're just going to pay attention here to the 53 days here. And there we have it, 26 minutes remaining. I want to try and get this as dead on the ball as I can. 85 meters per second for this adjustment is not a lot at all, so I am pretty happy. So let's do it from here. I don't know where the marker will be because I used all three axes. It could be anywhere, and we found it immediately because we are amazing at rocket science if you hadn't noticed. So boom, firing up these nuclear engines. They will accelerate us very, very slowly, and let's just skip over those 70 meters per second. There we go, 6 meters per second left, and as always I'm going to go to the map view and just inch us as close as possible to that rendezvous. We're 2,800 kilometers, and we're just going to keep going until this number doesn't go down anymore. I think that's it, 1,500 kilometers. And then from a bit closer we can try again, but now at this point a meter per second is going to be probably, well, 25 days, 8-hour days. Meter per second, yeah, meter per second is going to be hundreds of kilometers, so we're not going to be too fussy about that just yet. Look how perfectly this came together. We are meeting at the ascending node. I didn't plan that, that just kind of happened. So yeah, really pro at rocket science, as I said. So that's another episode done today. Check back for the next episode where we will, well, probably continue this rescue as this happens in 25 days. And then we shall see if that transfer happens merrily ever after. And, well, depending on what you guys send in, maybe a nice Rapier vessel from last episode science. We shall fly that, or maybe I'll fly one of the huge massive skyscrapers Rule and James built, or was it John? Put the name in the title of the ships because then I can remember who made it. To attach to the asteroid station that we still also have. So for now, though, thank you so much for watching. I am Lorenzo.